Welcome to Simple Things, where small stories spark big changes and growth begins with honesty.
You ever open your laptop just to stare at the blinking cursor? No plan, no deadline, no energy. Only this heavy silence around you and inside you. That was me, last night, in my apartment in Brooklyn, rain tapping against the window like it had something to say. I wasn't trying to write anything. I just opened the screen because, well, I didn't want to go to sleep. You know that kind of tired where you're not just tired in your body, but tired in your soul. Yeah, that kind. So, I sat there, in the dark, with only the dim light of the screen and the weight of the week pressing into my spine. And then I saw it. A document I don't remember opening, titled, "To Emily, from the future." I thought maybe it was spam, or something I saved by accident, but when I clicked it open, it started with just 3 words. You made it. That was it. No date, no explanation. Just, you made it. I sat there staring at those words for a long time, and something cracked. Not loudly. More like the sound of ice breaking under your feet, quiet, but deep. Because no one said that to me in a long, long time, not even me. You made it. 3 words that felt like a hug from someone I didn't know. I missed. Maybe me. And suddenly, I started to wonder, what if it really was a letter from my future self? What would she want me to know? What would she say to the version of me sitting here in this moment, unsure, unfinished, unraveling a little more each day? Maybe you've had nights like this too, nights where you feel like a ghost in your own life, where the world keeps spinning, and you're just trying to hold on. If that's where you are right now, then maybe this letter isn't just for me. Maybe it's for you too. Let me read it to you. I've always been the type who followed the rules, did well in school, got into a good college, graduated with a degree in communications, landed a job in a Manhattan ad agency right after, just like I was supposed to. You know that checklist they give you, the invisible one nobody talks about, but everyone knows. By 25, a stable job. By 28, a relationship that makes sense. By 30, maybe a condo, a dog, something to post on LinkedIn. I was on track, or at least, it looked like I was. Every morning, I caught the F train into the city. Same Starbucks order, same gray office, deadlines, meetings, fake laughter over happy hour drinks. People used to say I was put together, organized, reliable, the kind of person you could count on. And maybe that was true, on paper. But there was this part of me, the part I never really talked about, that felt completely disconnected, like I was watching myself live someone else's life. I'd smile at meetings, nod during brainstorms, send polite emojis in Slack threads, then go home, sit on my bed in the dark, and just feel absolutely nothing. No drama, no breakdown, just a quiet kind of numb. Some nights, I'd walk around the block 3 or 4 times, just to feel something. Not sadness, not joy, just anything. And yet, if you'd asked anyone around me, they'd probably say, Emily's doing great. Because I showed up, I hit deadlines, I laughed at the right moments. But inside, there was this growing sense that something was off, that I was slowly disappearing, not all at once, but piece by piece. I remember once, a coworker asked me, "What do you want to be doing 5 years from now?" And I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Not because I didn't know, but because I hadn't let myself ask that question in years. I'd been too busy trying to be okay, too busy trying to look okay. So I just smiled and said something safe. Oh, maybe creative director, You know, something in the industry. But the truth, I didn't want that. I didn't know what I wanted. I just knew this wasn't it. And when you're 29 living in a city of 8 million people, and you still feel completely alone, it starts to feel like maybe the problem is you, like maybe everyone else got the manual, and you missed it somehow. But I didn't tell anyone that, because I didn't want to seem dramatic, because people have it worse, because I was lucky, right? A job, a roof, a life that looked fine. So I kept it all in, and day after day, I faded a little more into someone I didn't recognize. The unraveling didn't happen all at once. It was quiet, like a leak you don't notice until the floor caves in beneath you. It started with my dad. He passed away when I was 25. Heart attack. Sudden. I was in a meeting when it happened, pitching a campaign I don't even remember now. By the time I got the call, he was already gone. No goodbyes. No last words. Just silence on the other end of the line, and the sound of my mom trying not to break. I flew home that night, and I remember standing in the airport restroom, staring at myself in the mirror, mascara smudged, breath shallow, and whispering, "You have to hold it together." I did. Through the funeral, through the condolences, through the weeks that followed where everyone moved on, but I couldn't. I went back to work like nothing happened, smiled, delivered, performed. Because grief, in corporate America, has an expiration date. But I was never the same after that. Something shifted. I couldn't pretend as easily. I started waking up with this tightness in my chest, not panic, not sadness, just weight. And then, the relationship. 6 years. We lived together, shared rent, shared groceries, shared future plans. Or so I thought. One night, out of nowhere, he said, "I don't know if I love you the way I used to." That was it. No fights, no other person, just the quiet death of something I thought was solid. He moved out 2 weeks later. I kept the apartment, and suddenly, the silence in my home became unbearable. I started sleeping on the couch, not because the bed was uncomfortable, but because it felt too big, too empty. And I kept going to work, every day, like nothing inside me had cracked wide open. My boss complimented me once during that time, said I was graceful under pressure. I almost laughed. They didn't know I cried in the elevator every morning before stepping into the office. Didn't know I stopped eating full meals, that I'd stare at the ceiling every night until 3 a.m. wondering when I stopped feeling like a person. Social media didn't help. Everyone was getting promoted, getting engaged, traveling to places I couldn't afford, smiling with people who looked like they had it all figured out. And me, I was barely surviving. There was this one night, middle of winter. I was standing on a subway platform at 2:07 a.m. Cold, empty. Everything felt unreal, like I wasn't in my body. And for a split second, just one, I thought, if I disappeared right now, would anyone notice? I didn't want to die. Not exactly. I just didn't want to keep feeling like this ghost version of me. That thought scared me, but I didn't tell anyone, because I didn't want to be a burden, because I was the strong one, because people around me were going through worse. So I swallowed it, like I always did, and kept showing up, even when I was barely there. That was the darkest part. Not the pain, but the fact that no one could see it. That you could walk around laughing, working, smiling, and still be completely, utterly lost inside. The change didn't come from a big moment, not from a movie-like epiphany, not from some stranger saying the right thing on the train. It came quietly. On a random Tuesday, while cleaning out the back of my closet, I found an old notebook, one I hadn't seen in years. It was from college, freshman year, the year I still believed everything was possible. I flipped it open, and there it was. Page after page of handwritten dreams, places I wanted to go, things I wanted to write, thoughts I never told anyone but wrote to myself like I was someone worth listening to. One line hit me like a punch to the chest. It said, "I want to write things that help people feel less alone." I don't know why, but I sat on the floor and cried. Not loud, not messy, just tears slipping out without permission, the kind you didn't know you were holding in until something opens the floodgate. Because I had forgotten that version of me, the one who still believed, the one who wanted. And maybe I missed her. That night, I didn't try to fix my life. I didn't make a 5-year plan. I didn't even get off the floor for a while. But I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I wrote. Just a few sentences. Just for me. I didn't post it. Didn't edit it. Didn't try to make it sound wise or worthy. I just let it out. And that was the beginning. A few weeks later, I signed up for a small community writing group. Anonymous, online, no cameras, just words. The prompt was simple. Write a letter to the version of yourself who feels like giving up. I stared at the screen for an hour. Then I wrote, "You don't need to be better. You don't need to be brave. You just need to breathe. And keep breathing, even when it hurts." I posted it, closed my laptop, didn't think about it again. The next morning, I woke up to over 200 responses. Not likes, not emojis, real words. People saying, "I needed this. I didn't know anyone else felt like this. Thank you. I thought I was broken." And for the first time in years, I didn't feel invisible. Because somehow, in writing about the parts of me I tried to hide, I found others who were hiding too. It didn't fix everything. I still had panic attacks. Still woke up some mornings feeling like my skin didn't fit. But now, I had a thread. A small, fragile thread pulling me forward. One night, I got a message from someone in that writing group. They said, "You remind me of someone I used to be. Thank you for helping me remember her." I didn't reply right away. But when I did, I said something I didn't expect to type. Maybe we're all just versions of each other, at different stages, trying to find our way back. And I realized, all those nights I thought no one understood, someone probably did. Maybe they weren't near me. Maybe they couldn't say it. But they knew. They'd been there. And if they made it through, maybe I could too. That was the first time I started believing not that everything would be okay, but that I would be okay. Eventually, in my own messy, slow, quiet way, I never became famous, never wrote a best-selling novel, never went viral. But I did something else, something quieter. I became real again. Today, I still live in that small apartment in Brooklyn. The rent's still too high. The floor still creaks in winter. But now, it feels like mine, not just a place I sleep, but a place I come home to. I write every morning, sometimes for clients, sometimes for strangers online, mostly just for me. My blog, the one I started in secret, it found people, not thousands, not millions, but enough. Enough to remind me that what I say matters, even when it's messy, even when it's soft. And somewhere along the way, I stopped writing to be heard and started writing so others could hear themselves. I call it Letters to the Girl I Was. A collection of tiny truths I wish someone had told me sooner. Like, you don't need to have it all together to be worthy. Healing doesn't look like a straight line. It looks like breathing underwater. You are not hard to love. You're just used to hiding. People started sending in their own letters, and I read every single one, late at night, wrapped in a blanket, with tea that always gets cold too fast. And it hit me. We are all walking around with unopened letters inside us, stories we're too afraid to tell because we think no one will care. Or worse, no one will understand. But here's the truth. Someone does. They're out there. And maybe they're waiting for your words the same way you've been waiting for theirs. So if you're still listening, and you feel like you're behind, or broken, or invisible, this is your letter. You made it. Not because everything is perfect, not because you have all the answers, but because you stayed, even when it was hard, even when it didn't make sense, even when no one clapped for you. And if you're not there yet, if you're still somewhere in the middle, that's okay. So was I. And maybe someday, you'll write a letter too, to the version of you who didn't give up, to someone else who needs to hear what only you can say. Final thought, whispered like a secret. If you could say one thing to the person you used to be, what would it be? If you're still here, still listening, thank you. Maybe this wasn't just my story. Maybe it was yours too in some shape, some chapter, some line that hit a little too close. And maybe, just maybe, that's the point. Because we don't always need someone to fix it, or to tell us what to do. Sometimes, we just need someone to say, "Me too." So I want to invite you, not as a call to action, but as an offering. If you have a story inside you, a letter you wish you'd received when you were younger, or lonelier, or lost, share it. Not for views, not for likes, just to remind someone out there that they're not crazy, they're not alone, they're not broken beyond repair. You can leave it in the comments, or maybe write it down in your notebook tonight. Fold it, keep it, or burn it. It's yours. But if you do feel like sharing, I'll be here, reading, quietly, like someone once read mine. And if this story meant something to you, if it reached a part of you that hasn't been spoken to in a while, you can follow this channel. There'll be more stories, not about being strong, but about being real. More letters, more people finding their way back. No pressure, just presence. This was my letter, from the future me to the version of me who didn't think she'd make it. And somehow I think it found you too. Maybe that's not a coincidence. Maybe that's what healing sounds like.